Okay, pardon the resolution and whatnot. I am at my friend's house while I recoup from my accident. I was asked about the joy of Satan and my response to it regarding the Nazism part of it. And, well, long story short, Nazism and Satanism is like oil and water. The paradigms really don't seem to work out. Um, in fact, Anton LaVey even talked about it, or even against it. And and if you look at some of the old Black Flame magazines, they even talk about it with a guy named Peter Grimes, who even tried to incorporate with the gold pentagram was the Aryan color for Satanism. So it's a long history and battle between ideologies. So Nazism and Satanism. What's the correlation? And the joy of Satan seems to be a particular stepping stone because a lot of people go and use the joy of Satan and then they leave. And then they go and they find other satanic organizations. I believe they're theists, for one, because I remember talking to Tom Spotnik about this years ago, and he told me about them, and he's a theist, and he was telling me about the joy of Satan. And so, from recollection, they're a theist organization. Um, for me, I'm an independent philosophical Satanist, but I'm open to other Satanists, so I don't discriminate. So I talk to everybody from other paradigms. So when I deal with other Satanists, I go off and I hear them out. How you believe things, what you believe, all these things. One of the commonalities from LaVey, his interpretation of how he sees, Nazism, and all the other articles from the Church of Satan all the way through, and the theistic viewpoints of not only Satanism but also their viewpoints of Nazism and how they try to infiltrate Satanism. There's a correlation, believe it or not, and it's a common correlation between the Satanists and how they view the Nazis, and that is a commonality is that a lot of white American youth look for identities between the ages of 18 to 25. They feel as though they don't have an identity because everybody has an identity but them. So they shave their heads. They might have hair, may not have hair. Often at times I get looked at as one when I groom myself, and I'll find someone looking at me and do a little, some type of fucking, some Nazi sign or something, some, white cracker gang sign or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I'll look at them and I'm like, I don't know. There's a Spanky and the gang, from the old black and white cart, with the Little Rascals. And I actually had a guy who was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, young guy, and he didn't know what I was doing. And I would just do this, and he showed me his card, and I'm like, oh, I had no clue what you were doing. I was about to do this next time. I didn't. So, if you're gonna act like a bozo in public, I'll join you. So so I go off and what is it? The Joy of Satan. A bunch of wonderful people. So the common correlation was that white people want identification. They want some type of identity, and the Nazi movement are loud and proud, and they want to show the world that white is right, and what have you. Problem with that is it's like, okay, fine, now what? What's your productivity? What's your goal statement? What's your mission statement? What are you going to go from there? And all they do is piss and moan about minorities. That's how I see it, at least. What are you going to do for the betterment of the white race besides signaling out the minorities? Well, they just do that. So, I mean, if you want to write a book, it's a pamphlet, about 3 pages. So, I don't know. The Joy of Satan, I've actually bought their CD set, and all I heard was some lady talking and going um after every sentence. Kind of like how Michael Ford kind of sounded when he first started out. And I critiqued the shit out of him when he did. I didn't do it to put him down. I just told him to fucking do it right. Now he actually sounds like a speaker. So, yay for Michael Ford. But another thing was to, stop him going all the fucking time. But these 4 disc set I got from the Joy of Satan, this girl did it all 4 fucking CDs, and I was like, oh my god! And I had to put them back up for sale because I was done listening to the bitch. So they were like, "Oh, is it that bad?" I said, "Buy them, find them for yourself, and then sell them to someone else who wants to listen to them." And that's what happened, and I think that's what happened too. Um, some people they dig it, and that's fine. But here's the problem. Here's the conflict. Here's the okay. If I think it's, I believe it's a theist group. They worship Satan. Hey, Satan. I don't know how they worship it. I don't know how they see Satan. I don't care. But here's the thing, and this is how I see the conflict. Because Nazism and all the groups see Nazis as this, not just because of self-identifiers, but Nazism is about what's good for the collective is good for you. I will repeat that fucking statement so you understand. What's good for the group is good for you. That's Nazism. The group comes first. Fuck you until the group. Get it? So, if you want something, hold your goddamn breath until some fucking thing happens before the group gets it first. Now, if you're a Satanist, a real Satanist, true blue Satanist to your own self, fuck that shit. You come first. You take care of yourself first. You are number one for you. Fuck everybody else. You cut down a tree, you can see rings. That fucking core, that number one thing, dead center, is you. Everything else around, that's your circles. Be it your family, your friends, whatever. But dead center is the most important thing ever. That's you. Some people might call it their God, their deity. That's fine. Ultimately, you. Because what good are you to your God or deity if you're not good to yourself? Bottom line, you. So when someone says you have to have your group come first before you, there are only a few situations in life where that comes true. You're in the battlefield. A collective like that comes true. But let's face it, I don't have a rifle in my hand. No one's lobbing mortars at me. I'm not wearing a uniform that says U.S. Army anymore. So, there you have it. That's my viewpoint about it. The Joy of Satan, they have their conflicts. They pick their fights with people. I've run in with a guy, the German guy, who he came at me a few times. He comes after a few other people with various amounts of significance. And quite frankly, 2 fucks to give. Who cares? The lady, I already told you, did 4 discs. She couldn't speak a coherent sentence to begin with. If I don't come across 2, whatever, fine. I have an excuse. I have a head injury. I got hit by a truck. They might be slow. I might be slowing down. I ain't dead yet. I'm still progressing. But you know what? That's me. But we're here to talk about the Joy of Satan. So, the way I see it all, that's them. And as for Satanism, I don't get it. If you're talking as a theist, Satan's up here or down there. You're God, or you're Satan. That's your macrocosm. You're outside. You're external. And you're supposed to have certain options with your deity. The way atheists look at it is it's a self-reflection outside of you. As atheists, we look inside ourselves. We see ourselves as our own God, autotheism, and that is we take care of ourselves, treat ourselves good. We bow down before no God because we don't see any gods before anyone else besides ourselves. Nazism is putting other things before ourselves. So Nazism puts things before your deity, and Nazism puts things before yourself. Contradicts itself. That's all I gotta say.